Chapter 1: The Nice Guy Syndrome.
I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. Jason, a chiropractor in his mid-30s, began his first session of individual therapy with this introduction. Jason described his life as perfect, except for one major problem: his sex life. It had been several months since he and his wife Heather had been sexual, and it didn't look like anything was going to change soon. Jason spoke openly about his marriage, his family, and his sexuality. An affable man, he seemed to welcome the opportunity to talk about himself and his life. More than anything, Jason wanted to be liked. He saw himself as a very generous, giving person. He prided himself on not having many ups and downs, and for never losing his temper. He revealed that he liked to make people happy and that he hated conflict. To avoid rocking the boat with his wife, he tended to hold back his feelings and tried to do everything right. After this introduction, Jason took a piece of paper out of his pocket and began to unfold it. While doing so, he stated that he had written a few things down so he wouldn't forget them. "I can never do it right," Jason began, looking over his list. "No matter how hard I try, Heather always finds something wrong. I don't deserve to be treated this way. I try to be a good husband and father, but it's never good enough." Jason paused as he looked over his list. "This morning is a good example," he continued. "While Heather was getting ready for work, I got our baby Chelsea up, fed her breakfast, gave her a bath. I had her all ready to go and was about to get ready myself. Then Heather walked in and got that look on her face. I knew I was in trouble. Why'd you dress her in that? That's a good outfit." Jason mimicked his wife's tone. "I didn't know she wanted Chelsea to wear something different. After everything I did to get her ready this morning, it was still wrong." "Here's another example," Jason continued. "The other day I cleaned the kitchen and did a real good job. I loaded the dishwasher, did the pots and pans, and swept the floor. I thought Heather would really appreciate all that I was doing to help out. Before I was finished, she walked in and asked, 'How come you didn't wipe off the counters?' I wasn't even done, for goodness sake." But instead of noticing all that I had done and thanking me, she focused on the one thing I hadn't finished yet. "Then there is the sex thing," Jason continued. "We only messed around a few times before we got married because we're both Christians. Sex is real important to me, but Heather just isn't interested. I thought once you got married, everything was supposed to be great. After all I do for Heather, you'd think she'd be willing to give me the one thing I really want. I do a lot more than most guys. It seems like I'm always giving so much more than I get." Now, looking like a little boy on the couch, Jason pleaded, "All I want is to be loved and appreciated." Is that too much to ask? Some of the nicest guys you will ever meet, men like Jason, walk into my office on a surprisingly regular basis. These guys come in all shapes and sizes, yet they all have the same basic worldview. Let me introduce you to a few more. Omar's number one goal in life is to please his girlfriend. Nevertheless, she complains that he is never emotionally available for her. In fact, every one of his previous girlfriends has had the same complaint. Since Omar sees himself as such a giver, he can't understand these accusations. Omar states that his greatest joy in life is making other people happy. He even carries a pager so his friends can get in touch with him if they need anything. Todd prides himself on treating women with honesty and respect. He believes these traits set him apart from other men and should attract women to him. Though he has many female friends, he rarely dates. The women he knows tell him what a great listener he is and often call him to share their problems. He likes feeling needed. These female friends constantly tell him what a great catch he will make for some lucky woman. In spite of the way he treats women, he can't understand why they all seem to be attracted to jerks rather than nice guys like him. Bill is the person to whom everyone turns when they need something. The word no just isn't in his vocabulary. He fixes cars for women at his church. He coaches his son's Little League baseball team. His buddies call on him when they need help moving. He looks after his widowed mother every evening after work. Even though it makes him feel good to give to others, he never seems to get as much as he gives. Gary's wife has frequent rage attacks in which she verbally shames and demeans him. Because he is afraid of conflict and doesn't want to rock the boat, Gary will avoid bringing up subjects that he knows might make his wife angry. After a fight, he is always the first one to apologize. He cannot recall his wife ever saying she was sorry for any of her behaviors. In spite of the constant conflict, Gary says he loves his wife and would do anything to please her. Rick, a man in his early 40s, is in a committed relationship with an alcoholic. Rick came to counseling to help his wife Rebecca with his drinking problem. Rick complains that it always feels as if it is up to him to hold everything together. His hope is that if he can help Rebecca get sober, he will finally have the kind of relationship he has always wanted. Lyle, a devout Christian, tries to do everything right. He teaches Sunday school and is an elder in his church. Nevertheless, he has struggled since adolescence with an addiction to pornography. Lyle masturbates compulsively, often 3 to 4 times a day. He spends hours every day looking at sexually explicit websites on the internet. He is terrified that if anyone ever finds out the truth about his sexual compulsions, his life will be destroyed. All copyright served, Resonant Red Studio. He tries to control his problem with prayer and Bible study, although neither of these approaches has done much good. Jose, a business consultant in his late 30s, has spent the last 5 years in a relationship with a woman he considers needy and dependent. Jose began thinking about breaking up the day she first moved in. He is afraid that his girlfriend wouldn't be able to make it on her own if he left her. Although he has made several aborted attempts to break up, his girlfriend always becomes such an emotional basket case that he gets back together with her. Jose spends just about every waking moment trying to figure out how to get out of the relationship without hurting his girlfriend or looking like a jerk. Who are these men? Though all of these men are unique, each shares a common life script. They all believe that if they are good and do everything right, they will be loved, get their needs met, and have a problem-free life. This attempt to be good typically involves trying to eliminate or hide certain things about themselves, their mistakes, needs, emotions, and become what they believe others want them to be: generous, helpful, peaceful, etc. I call these men nice guys. Up to now, we haven't paid much attention to the nice guy, but he is everywhere. He is the relative who lets his wife run the show. He is the buddy who will do anything for anybody, but whose own life seems to be in shambles. He is the guy who frustrates his wife or girlfriend because he is so afraid of conflict that nothing ever gets resolved. He is the boss who tells one person what they want to hear, then reverses himself to please someone else. He is the man who lets people walk all over him because he doesn't want to rock the boat. He is the dependable guy at church or the club who will never say no, but would never tell anyone if they were imposing on him. He is the man whose life seems so under control, until boom, one day he does something to destroy it all. Characteristics of nice guys. Every nice guy is unique, but all have a cluster of similar characteristics. These traits are the result of a script, often formed in childhood, that guides their lives. While other men may have 1 or 2 of these traits, nice guys seem to possess a significant number. Nice guys are givers. Nice guys frequently state that it makes them feel good to give to others. These men believe their generosity is a sign of how good they are and will make other people love and appreciate them. Nice guys fix and caretake. If a person has a problem, has a need, is angry, depressed or sad, nice guys will frequently attempt to solve or fix the situation, usually without being asked. Nice guys seek approval from others. A universal trait of the nice guy syndrome is the seeking of validation from others. Everything a nice guy does or says is at some level calculated to gain someone's approval or avoid disapproval. This is especially true in their relationships with women. Nice guys avoid conflict. Nice guys seek to keep their world smooth. To do this, they avoid doing things that might rock the boat or upset anyone. Nice guys believe they must hide their perceived flaws and mistakes. These men are afraid that others will get mad at them, shame them, or leave them if some mistake or shortcoming is exposed. Nice guys seek the right way to do things. Nice guys believe there is a key to having a happy, problem-free life. They are convinced that if they can only figure out the right way to do everything, nothing should ever go wrong. Nice guys repress their feelings. Nice guys tend to analyze rather than feel. They may see feelings as a waste of time and energy. They frequently try to keep their feelings on an even keel. Nice guys often try to be different from their fathers. Many nice guys report having unavailable, absent, passive, angry, philandering, or alcoholic fathers. It is not unusual for these men to make a decision at some point in their lives to try to be 180 degrees different from dad. Nice guys are often more comfortable relating to women than to men. Due to their childhood conditioning, many nice guys have few male friends. Nice guys frequently seek the approval of women and convince themselves they are different from other men. They like to believe that they are not selfish, angry, or abusive, traits they link to other men. Nice guys have difficulty making their needs a priority. These men often feel that it is selfish to put their needs first. They believe it is a virtue to put others' needs ahead of their own. Nice guys often make their partner their emotional center. Many nice guys report that they are only happy if their partner is happy. Therefore, they will often focus tremendous energy on their intimate relationships. What's wrong with being a nice guy? We might be tempted to minimize the problem of the nice guy syndrome. After all, how can being nice be such a bad thing? We might even chuckle at the Marvin Milquetoast behaviors of these men as portrayed in comic strips and television sitcoms. Since men already represent an easy target in our culture, the caricature of a sensitive guy might be an object of amusement rather than concern. Nice guys themselves frequently have a difficult time grasping the depth and seriousness of their beliefs and behaviors. When I begin working with these passively pleasing men, almost without exception, they all ask, "What is wrong with being a nice guy?" Having picked up this book and puzzled over the title, you may be wondering the same thing. By giving these men the label nice guy, I'm not so much referring to their actual behavior, but to their core belief system about themselves and the world around them. These men have been conditioned to believe that if they are nice, they will be loved, get their needs met, and have a smooth life. The term nice guy is actually a misnomer because nice guys are often anything but nice. Here are some not-so-nice traits of nice guys. Nice guys are dishonest. These men hide their mistakes, avoid conflict, say what they think people want to hear, and repress their feelings. These traits make nice guys fundamentally dishonest. Nice guys are secretive. Because they are so driven to seek approval, nice guys will hide anything that they believe might upset anyone. The nice guy motto is, if at first you don't succeed, hide the evidence. Nice guys are compartmentalized. Nice guys are adept at harmonizing contradictory pieces of information about themselves by separating them into individual compartments in their minds. Therefore, a married man can create his own definition of fidelity, which allows him to deny that he had an affair with his secretary, or in turn, because he never put his penis in her vagina. Nice guys are manipulative. Nice guys tend to have a hard time making their needs a priority and have difficulty asking for what they want in clear and direct ways. This creates a sense of powerlessness. Therefore, they frequently resort to manipulation when trying to get their needs met. Nice guys are controlling. A major priority for nice guys is keeping their world smooth. This creates a constant need to try to control the people and things around them. Nice guys give to get. Though nice guys tend to be generous givers, their giving often has unconscious and unspoken strings attached. They want to be appreciated, they want some kind of reciprocation, they want someone to stop being angry at them, etc. Nice guys often report feeling frustrated or resentful as a result of giving so much while seemingly getting so little in return. Nice guys are passive-aggressive. Nice guys tend to express their frustration and resentment in indirect, roundabout, and not-so-nice ways. This includes being unavailable, forgetting, being late, not following through, not being able to get an erection, climaxing too quickly, and repeating the same annoying behaviors even when they have promised to never do them. Nice guys are full of rage. Though nice guys frequently deny ever getting angry, a lifetime of frustration and resentment creates a pressure cooker of repressed rage deep inside these men. This rage tends to erupt at some of the most unexpected and seemingly inappropriate times. Nice guys are addictive. Addictive behavior serves the purpose of relieving stress, altering moods, or medicating pain. Since nice guys tend to keep so much bottled up inside, it has to come out somewhere. One of the most common addictive behaviors for nice guys is sexual compulsiveness. Nice guys have difficulty setting boundaries. Many nice guys have a hard time saying no, stop, or I'm going to. They often feel like helpless victims and see the other person as the cause of the problems they are experiencing. Nice guys are frequently isolated. Though nice guys desire to be liked and loved, their behaviors actually make it difficult for people to get very close to them. Nice guys are often attracted to people and situations that need fixing. This behavior is often the result of the nice guy's childhood conditioning, his need to look good, or his quest for approval. Unfortunately, this tendency pretty much guarantees that nice guys will spend most of their time putting out fires and managing crises. Nice guys frequently have problems in intimate relationships. Though nice guys often put tremendous emphasis on this part of their lives, their intimate relationships are frequently a source of struggle and frustration. For example, nice guys are often terrible listeners because they are too busy trying to figure out how to defend themselves or fix the other person's problem. Because of their fear of conflict, they are frequently dishonest and are rarely available to work all the way through a problem. It is not unusual for nice guys to form relationships with partners whom they believe to be projects or diamonds in the rough. When these projects don't polish up as expected, nice guys tend to blame their partner for standing in the way of their happiness. Nice guys have issues with sexuality. Though most nice guys deny having problems with sex, I have yet to meet one who isn't either dissatisfied with his sex life, has a sexual dysfunction, can't get or maintain an erection, climaxes too quickly, or has sexually acted out, through affairs, prostitution, pornography, compulsive masturbation, etc. Nice guys are usually only relatively successful. The majority of nice guys I've met have been talented, intelligent, and moderately successful. Almost without exception though, they failed to live up to their full potential. But he seemed like such a nice guy. It is not unusual for unsuspecting people to mistake the passive, pleasing, and generous characteristics of a nice guy for those of a healthy male. Many women have told me that upon initially meeting these men, they believed the same to be true. Because he seemed different from other men they had been with, the nice guy seemed like a real catch. Unfortunately, the negative traits listed above find a way to ooze out into nice guys' lives and personal relationships. As a result, these men tend to swing back and forth between being nice and not so nice. I have listened to countless wives and girlfriends describe the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde qualities of nice guys. He can be really wonderful and he can also hurt me deeply. He'll do all the extra little things like picking up the kids and fixing dinner when I have to put in extra hours at work. But then out of the blue, he'll throw a tantrum about me never being sexually available to him. Everyone thinks he is such a great guy, and I'm really lucky to have him. But they don't know what he can really be like. He's always helping people out with their car or something else that needs fixing. When I ask him to do something, he tells me that he can never make me happy and that I'm nagging and controlling like his mother. He is constantly trying to please me. He will do anything for me except really be there for me. He'll go shopping with me even though I know he doesn't want to. The whole time he will just sulk, which makes me miserable. I wish he would just tell me no sometimes. He will never tell me when something is bothering him. He'll just keep it in and it will build like a pressure cooker. I won't have a clue that anything is bothering him. And then out of the blue, he'll explode and we'll end up in a big fight. If he would just tell me when he is upset about something, it would make it a lot easier. When I try to talk to him about something that is bothering me, he tries to fix it. He thinks that if I just did everything his way, it would solve all my problems. He always tells me I dwell on the negative and that he can never make me happy. All I really want is for him to listen to me. After all the other crummy men I've been with, I thought I had finally found a nice guy that I could trust. 5 years into our marriage, I found out that he was addicted to pornography and peep shows. I was devastated. I never even had a clue. I wish I could wave a magic wand, keep all of his good traits, and make all the others disappear. The integrated male, after enrolling in a No More Mr. Nice Guy therapy group, Gil, a pleasant man in his early 50s, revealed that his wife was supportive of his joining a group. Nevertheless, he harbored a secret fear that she would be angry at what the name of the group seemed to imply: how to stop being a nice guy and become an SOB. Using typical nice guy logic, Gil questioned why any woman would be supportive of men becoming not nice. Because nice guys tend to be very black and white in their thinking, the only alternative they can see to being nice is becoming bastards or jerks. I frequently remind nice guys that the opposite of crazy is still crazy, so becoming a jerk isn't the answer. Recovery from the nice guy syndrome isn't about going from one extreme to another. The process of breaking free from ineffective nice guy patterns doesn't involve becoming not nice. Rather, it means becoming integrated. Being integrated means being able to accept all aspects of one's self. An integrated man is able to embrace everything that makes him uniquely male: his power, his assertiveness, his courage, and his passion, as well as his imperfections, his mistakes, and his dark side. An integrated male possesses many of the following attributes. He has a strong sense of self. He likes himself just as he is. He takes responsibility for getting his own needs met. He is comfortable with his masculinity and his sexuality. He has integrity. He does what is right, not what is expedient. He is a leader. He is willing to provide for and protect those he cares about. He is clear, direct, and expressive of his feelings. He can be nurturing and giving without caretaking or problem solving. He knows how to set boundaries and is not afraid to work through conflict. An integrated male doesn't strive to be perfect or gain the approval of others. Instead, he accepts himself just as he is, warts and all. An integrated male accepts that he is perfectly imperfect. Making the transformation from a nice guy to an integrated male doesn't come about by just trying harder to be a good man. Breaking free from the nice guy syndrome demands embracing a totally different way of viewing oneself and the world, a complete change in one's personal paradigm. Let me explain. A paradigm is the roadmap we use to navigate life's journey. Everyone uses these roadmaps, and everyone assumes the map they are using is up-to-date and accurate. Paradigms often operate at an unconscious level, yet they determine to a large degree our attitudes and behaviors. They serve as a filter through which we process life experiences. Data that does not fit our paradigm is screened out, never reaching our conscious mind. Information that does fit our paradigm is magnified by the process, and adds even greater support for that particular way of believing. Paradigms, like roadmaps, can be great tools for speeding us along on our journey. Unfortunately, if they are outdated or inaccurate, they can send us in the wrong direction or fruitlessly driving around the same old neighborhood. When this happens, we often keep trying harder to find our desired destination while feeling more and more frustrated. Even though an individual following an inaccurate or outdated paradigm may think his behavior makes perfect sense, those around him may wonder what he could possibly be thinking to make him act the way he does. Most paradigms are developed when we are young, naive, and relatively powerless. They are often based on the inaccurate interpretations of childhood experiences. Since they are often unconscious, they are rarely evaluated or updated. Perhaps most significantly, they are assumed to be 100% accurate, even when they are not. The ineffective nice guy paradigm. The working paradigm of the nice guy is this: if I can hide my flaws and become what I think others want me to be, then I will be loved, get my needs met, and have a problem-free life. Even when this paradigm is ineffective, nice guys only see one alternative: try harder. Nice guys are notoriously slow learners and amazingly quick forgetters when their paradigms are challenged. Their inclination is to hang on to belief systems that have proven to be consistently unworkable, yet are so embedded in their unconscious mind that to challenge them is tantamount to heresy. It is difficult for nice guys to consider doing something different, even when what they are doing isn't working. Jason, whose sexual difficulties with his wife, Heather, were introduced at the beginning of the chapter, is a good example of the frustration that can result from an ineffective nice guy paradigm. Jason had a controlling, perfectionist father who put unrealistic demands on Jason and his siblings. His father believed there was one right way to do everything, his way. Jason's mother was an emotionally dependent woman who lived through her children. When his mother was needy, she would smother her kids. When the children had needs, she was often too emotionally distressed to respond. Jason learned to cope with his childhood experience by developing a paradigm that included believing that if he could figure out how to do everything right, he could garner his father's approval and avoid his criticism. Believing that if he responded to his mother's neediness by being attentive and nurturing, she would be available to him when he had needs. Believing that if he was never a moment's problem, he would get love and approval. Believing that if he hid his mistakes, no one would ever get mad at him. As a child, Jason was too naive and powerless to realize that no matter what he did, he would never live up his father's expectations. Similarly, no matter how giving he was, his needy mother would never be available to nurture him. He could not see that there really was no way to do everything right. And regardless of how well he believed he hid his flaws or mistakes, people might still get angry at him. Even when his childhood roadmap failed to take him in the desired direction, the only option he could see was to just keep trying harder, doing more of the same. The only thing his paradigm ever really did was to create a distraction from his feelings of fear, worthlessness, and inadequacy. In adulthood, Jason tried to apply his childhood paradigm to his relationship with his wife. Like his mother, his wife was only attentive when she was emotionally needy. Like his father, she could be critical and controlling. By applying his childhood road map to his marriage, trying to do everything right, being attentive and nurturing, never being a moment's problem, hiding his mistakes, Jason created an illusion that he could get his wife to approve of him all the time, be sexually available whenever he wanted, and never get mad at him. His defective paradigm prevented him from seeing that no matter what he did, his wife would still at times be cold, critical, and unavailable, and that maybe he needed her to be that way. Even when his paradigm was just as ineffective in adulthood as it was in childhood, Jason's only option seemed to be to just keep trying harder. Doing something different. One of my all-time favorite Seinfeld episodes is the one where George decided to change his life by acting the opposite of how he would have typically behaved. Ironically, by doing everything the opposite, he gets a beautiful girlfriend and a job with the Yankees. While doing everything the opposite may not be the answer for breaking free from the nice guy syndrome, doing some things different is. Over the last several years, I have watched countless men do something different by applying the principles contained in this book. These men have transformed themselves from resentful, frustrated, helpless nice guys into assertive, empowered, and happy individuals. Just like George on the Seinfeld show, when nice guys decide to make a change, interesting things begin to happen. Among other things, I've watched these men accept themselves just as they are. Use their mistakes as valuable learning tools. Stop seeking the approval of others. Experience loving and intimate relationships. Make their needs a priority. Find people who are able and willing to help them meet their needs. Learn to give judiciously, with no strings attached. Face their fears. Develop integrity and honesty. Set boundaries. Build meaningful relationships with men. Create healthier, more satisfying relationships with women. Experience and express their feelings. Deal with problems directly. Develop an intimate and satisfying sexual relationship. Find peace with the changing complexities of life. Asking for help. Nice guys believe they should be able to do everything on their own. They have a difficult time asking for help and try to hide any signs of imperfection or weakness. Breaking free from the nice guy syndrome involves reversing this pattern. Recovery from the nice guy syndrome is dependent on revealing one's self and receiving support from safe people. It is essential, therefore, that men who want to break free from the nice guy syndrome find safe people to assist them in this process. I encourage recovering nice guys to begin this process with a therapist, therapy group, 12-step group, a religious leader, or close friend. Since nice guys tend to seek out the approval of women, I strongly encourage them to begin this process with men. For some nice guys, the concept of safe men may seem like an oxymoron, but I highly recommend it anyway. I have been leading men's therapy groups for recovering nice guys for several years. Some of the most significant aspects of my own recovery from the nice guy syndrome, even before I knew what it was, occurred in the context of 12-step groups and therapy groups. Even though I am sure it is possible to break free from the nice guy syndrome without the help of a group, it is the most effective tool I know for facilitating the recovery process. Breaking free activities. If you recognize yourself or someone you love in what you have read so far, read on. This book presents a practical and effective guide for breaking free from the negative effects of the nice guy syndrome. This program has worked for countless men, and it can work for you or a loved one. To help facilitate this process, I present numerous breaking free activities throughout the book. These breaking free activities serve to facilitate the paradigm shift that is necessary for recovery from the nice guy syndrome. They will not only help recovering nice guys understand where their paradigms came from, but will help replace them with more accurate and up-to-date ones. These assignments will also point recovering nice guys in a direction that will help them start doing things differently. Breaking free. Activity number 1. Write down 3 possible safe people or groups that might be able to provide support for you in your recovery from the nice guy syndrome. If no one comes to mind, get out the telephone directory and look up counselors or support groups in the phone book. Write down 3 names and phone numbers and call them when you finish this chapter. If you are employed by a company with an employee assistance program, this is another resource. If you know someone who has been to therapy or a support group, ask them for information. If you have access to the internet, you can search for 12-step groups or support groups. Caution: before you decide to apply the principles presented in this book, I must first warn you about 2 things. The first is that the program of recovery presented in No More Mr. Nice Guy is not just a few good ideas to try on for size. It represents a challenge to everything nice guys believe about what they must do to be loved, get their needs met, and keep their world calm. Breaking free from the nice guy syndrome involves a radical change in perspective and behavior. Trying to do it halfway will only result in needless suffering. Second, breaking free from the nice guy syndrome will significantly affect your personal relationships. If you are currently in a relationship, I encourage you to ask your partner to read this book along with you. The program of recovery, presented in No More Mr. Nice Guy, will significantly affect not only you, but also those closest to you. Though your partner may be supportive of you making positive changes, they may also initially frighten him or her. Reading this book together can help facilitate this transition. With these warnings aside, if what you have read so far makes sense, keep reading. The following chapters contain information that can help you break free from the nice guy syndrome and start getting what you want in love and life. Breaking free activity number 2. Why would it seem rational for a person to try to eliminate or hide certain things about himself and try to become something different unless there was a significant compelling reason for him to do so? Why do people try to change who they really are? Chapter 2. The Making of a Nice Guy. I concluded the previous chapter with the question, why would it seem rational for a person to try to eliminate or hide certain things about himself and try to become something different unless there was a significant compelling reason for him to do so? Why do people try to change who they really are? After spending years examining the nice guy syndrome from every possible angle, there is only one answer to this question that makes sense, because it does not feel safe or acceptable for a boy or man to be just who he is. Becoming a nice guy is a way of coping with situations where it does not feel safe or acceptable for a boy or man to be just who he is. Further, the only thing that would make a child or an adult sacrifice one's self by trying to become something different is a belief that being just who he is must be a bad and/or dangerous thing. The premise of this book is that during their formative years, all nice guys received messages from their families and the world around them that it was not safe, acceptable, or desirable for them to be who they were, just as they were. So how did nice guys receive these messages, and why did they respond to them in the way that they did? The following is a short course on how families and society turn perfect little boys into men who believe they have to be good in order to be loved. Coping with abandonment. The most impressionable time in an individual's life is from birth to about 5 years. In these first few years, a child's personality is most significantly influenced by his surroundings. It is during this time that his paradigms begin to be established. Since the strongest influences during this time are usually a child's parents and extended family, this is where we must begin our examination of the origins of the nice guy syndrome. There are 2 important facts we must understand about children. First, when children come into the world, they are totally helpless. They are dependent on others to recognize and respond to their needs in a timely, judicious manner. As a result of this dependency, every child's greatest fear is abandonment. To children, abandonment means death. Second, children are ego-centered. This means that they inherently believe they are the center of the universe and everything revolves around them. Therefore, they believe that they are the cause of everything that happens to them. These 2 factors, their fear of abandonment and their ego-centeredness, create a very powerful dynamic for all children. Whenever a child experiences any kind of abandonment, he will always believe that he is the cause of what has happened to him. These abandonment experiences might include any of the following experiences: he is hungry and no one feeds him. He cries and no one holds him. He is lonely and no one pays attention to him. A parent gets angry at him. A parent neglects him. A parent puts unrealistic expectations on him. A parent uses him to gratify his or her own needs. A parent shames him. A parent hits him. A parent doesn't want him. A parent leaves him and doesn't come back in a timely manner. Because every child is born into an imperfect world and into an imperfect family, every child has abandonment experiences. Even though their belief that they are the cause of these painful events is, in fact, an inaccurate interpretation of their life, children have no other way to understand the world. Toxic shame. These abandonment experiences, and the naive, ego-centered interpretation of them, creates a belief in some young children that it is not acceptable for them to be who they are, just as they are. They conclude that there must be something wrong with them, which causes the important people in their lives to abandon them. They have no way of comprehending that their abandonment experiences are not caused by something about them, but by the people who are supposed to recognize and meet their needs. This naive, ego-centered interpretation of their abandonment experiences creates a psychological state called toxic shame. Toxic shame is the belief that one is inherently bad, defective, different, or unlovable. Toxic shame is not just a belief that one does bad things, it is a deeply held core belief that one is bad. Survival mechanisms. As a result of these abandonment experiences and the faulty interpretation of these events, all children develop survival mechanisms to help them do three very important things. 1. Try to cope with the emotional and physical distress of being abandoned. 2. Try to prevent similar events from happening again. 3. Try to hide their internalized toxic shame, or perceived badness, from themselves and others. Children find a multitude of creative ways to try to accomplish these three goals. Since their insight, experience, and resources are limited, these survival mechanisms are often ineffective and sometimes seemingly illogical. For instance, a child who is feeling lonely may misbehave in a way that is sure to attract his parents' attention in a negative way. Even though it may seem illogical for a child to do something that invites painful or negative attention, the consequences of the behavior may not feel as bad as feeling lonely or isolated. Trying to be good, trying to become what he believes others want him to be, is just one of many possible scripts that a little boy might form as the result of childhood abandonment experiences and the internalization of toxic shame. The origin of the nice guy paradigm. When I first began exploring my own nice guy attitudes and behaviors, I had no idea how all the pieces fit together. I believed that I came from a pretty good family and had lived a pretty good life. When I began observing other men with traits similar to my own, I encountered the same general lack of insight into the origins of their own emotional and behavioral patterns. When questioned about their childhood, nice guys frequently tell me they grew up in perfect, great, Leave It to Beaver, or all-American families. Nevertheless, these men learned to hide their flaws and tried to become what they believed others wanted them to be. These factors indicate that at some point in their early lives, their circumstances were less than ideal. Alan, Jason, and Jose are all nice guys. Each of these men had different childhood experiences. They are all unique in the way that their nice guy scripts are played out in their adult lives. In spite of these differences, they all developed a core belief in childhood that they were not okay just as they were. As a result of their internalized toxic shame, each developed a life paradigm that involved seeking approval and hiding perceived flaws. All of these men believed that these life strategies were necessary if they were to have any hope of being loved, getting their needs met, and having a problem-free life. Alan, the oldest of 3 children in a single-parent family, Alan prided himself on having never caused his mother a moment's pain. As a child, he performed well in sports and school. He believed that these things set him apart from his siblings and made his mother proud. Alan was the first person in his family to get a college degree, another factor he believed made him special. Alan's father, an abusive alcoholic, abandoned the family when Alan was 7. At an early age, Alan made a decision to be 180 degrees different from his father. As a result, he prided himself on being patient, giving, and even-keeled. Alan worked hard to never be angry or demeaning like his father. He was an active leader in his youth group at church and never drank alcohol or did drugs as a teenager. Alan's mother, a fundamentalist Christian, raised Alan in a sect that preached hellfire and brimstone. He came to believe that he was a sinner for having normal thoughts, impulses, and behaviors. Though he always worked hard to be a good Christian, he lived with a constant fear that he might make a mistake and suffer everlasting punishment. Alan believed his mother was a saint. She would do anything for her children. She would listen and wasn't critical. Frequently, she and Alan would commiserate with each other about all the bad things his dad did. On more than one occasion, Alan's mother told him that she was trying to raise her sons to be different from their father. She wanted them to grow up to be giving, peaceful, and respectful of women. As an adult, Alan still stays in close touch with his mother and does whatever he can to help make her life easier. Jason, introduced in Chapter 1, believed he grew up in a Leave It to Beaver family. In reality, both of Jason's parents lived through their children. Though he saw his childhood as ideal, in actuality, his parents used him and his siblings to meet their own needs. Jason believed his parents were perfect. He described them as being strict and overprotective. He acknowledged that he was sheltered and sexually naive and admitted that he might have been smothered by his parents. Jason's father closely directed the family. Jason reported that his father still tried to control Jason's life. Jason shared a chiropractic practice with his father, who ran the business and told Jason what house he should buy, what car to drive, and what church he should attend. Jason described his mother as a wonderful, loving woman. He reported that she was always involved with the kids. With no friends of her own, she turned to her children for companionship and affirmation of her worth. Jason couldn't remember his parents showing much affection to each other. He couldn't picture them having sex, and wondered how they made 3 kids. Even though they did lots of things with the children, he couldn't remember them ever going out or taking a vacation just by themselves. As an adult, Jason tried to live up to the image of perfection portrayed by his parents. Everything he did was calculated to look good. He looked like a good husband, a good father, a good Christian, and a good professional. In spite of all his efforts, he always felt inadequate and defective compared to his parents. Jose, a successful business consultant, Jose was afraid of intimate relationships. Jose was highly educated and had a stressful, high-powered career. He was physically active, and his idea of recreation was taking a 100-mile bike ride or climbing a mountain. He repressed his anger and tried to never say anything that would upset anyone. He saw himself as controlling and acknowledged that his drug of choice was recognition. Jose was attracted to dependent women. He found it interesting that he seemed to be attracted to incest survivors. He stayed in his present relationship because he was concerned about the financial welfare of his girlfriend. He was afraid she wouldn't make it if he left. Jose openly acknowledged that he came from a dysfunctional family. He was the second of 7 children in a lower-class family. At around the age of 14, he took on the role of parenting his younger siblings. Jose reported that there was tremendous chaos in his family, and he saw his job as protecting his brothers and sisters from its effects. Jose saw his father as angry, controlling, and abusive. He was explosive and demeaning to the boys, and sexually abusive to the girls. Jose's mother was manic-depressive. She had extreme mood swings and had a difficult time staying on her medication. When she was manic, the house would be spotless. She would talk of entertaining politicians and socialites, and she would begin destructive sexual relationships. When she was depressed, she kept the windows covered, the house became a wreck, and she would threaten to kill herself. When he was 15, Jose had to break through a locked door and take a loaded gun away from his mother. She had been threatening suicide while all 7 kids stood by terrified. Jose saw this as a typical scenario growing up in his home. Jose worked hard all of his life to be different from his family. His family had him on a pedestal, and he was the one to whom everyone turned whenever they had a problem. His job as a family member was fixing chaos. His job as a business consultant was fixing chaos. His role in relationships was fixing chaos. Jose's life script required chaos, because without it, he would be out of a job. Jose considered his natural intelligence, work ethic, and ability to solve problems his saving grace. It was these factors, he believed, that allowed him to escape his family dysfunction and make something of himself. Without them, he was convinced, he would have ended up just like his parents and the rest of siblings. Child Development 101. Alan, Jason, and Jose all had very different childhood experiences, yet all developed a similar script that guided their lives. Each, in various ways, internalized a belief that they were not okay just as they were and their survival depended on becoming something different. To help us connect the dots and see how three very different childhood experiences could create three men with very similar life paradigms, it might be helpful to do a quick review of the child development principles presented earlier in this chapter. 1. All children are born totally helpless. 2. A child's greatest fear is abandonment. All ego-centered. 4. All children have numerous abandonment experiences. Their needs are not met in a timely, judicious manner. 5. When a child has an abandonment experience, he always believes that he is the cause. 6. This naive misinterpretation creates toxic shame, a belief that he is bad. 7. Children develop survival mechanisms to try to cope with their abandonment experiences, try to prevent the experiences from happening again, and try to hide their badness from themselves and others. 8. These childhood survival mechanisms reflect the child's inherent powerlessness and naive view of himself and the world. From perfect little boys to nice guys, the principles above can be applied to the childhood experiences of Alan, Jason, Jose, and every other nice guy described in this book. The progression from perfect little boy to nice guy basically occurs in three stages: abandonment, internalization of toxic shame, and the creation of survival mechanisms. Abandonment. Like all nice guys, Alan, Jason, and Jose were abandoned in various ways. Alan and Jose had an angry or critical parent who communicated that they were not okay just as they were. Alan worshipped his mother, but she would not intervene when his father lashed out at Alan. This implied that he wasn't worth protecting. Alan came to believe that he had to be different from his father to be seen as a good man and be loved by his mother. Alan and Jason were used and objectified by their parents. They were valued for always doing it right and never being a problem. This communicated that they were only lovable when they lived up to their parents' expectations. Since Jason believed his parents were perfect, he always felt flawed and inadequate compared to them. Neither of Jose's parents provided any guidance, nurturing, or support. This communicated that he was of little or no value to them. Alan and Jason grew up in fundamentalist churches that reinforced a need to be perfect and sin. Failure to do so meant everlasting punishment. Jose believed he was valuable only if he was different from his crazy family. All three, Alan, Jason, and Jose, believed that someone else's needs were more important than their own, a common occurrence in nice guy families. All of these experiences represented a form of abandonment because they communicated to these little boys that they were not okay just as they were. Shame, regardless of whether they were abused, abandoned, neglected, shamed, used, smothered, controlled, or objectified, all nice guys internalized the same belief: it was a bad or dangerous thing for them to be just who they were. Failure to do so meant everlasting punishment. Jose believed he was valuable only if he was different from his crazy family. All three, Alan, Jason, and Jose, believed that someone else's needs were more important than their own, a common occurrence in nice guy families. All of these experiences represented a form of abandonment because they communicated to these little boys that they were not okay just as they were. Shame, regardless of whether they were abused, abandoned, neglected, shamed, used, smothered, controlled, or objectified, all nice guys internalized the same belief: it was a bad or dangerous thing for them to be just who they were. Some of these messages were communicated overtly by parents who had no concern for the child's welfare. Some were communicated indirectly by caring parents who themselves were too young, overwhelmed, or distracted to provide a nurturing environment for their child. At times, these messages were communicated by circumstances that were beyond anyone's control. In every situation, the child believed these events and circumstances were telling a story about him. He believed there was something about him that caused these things to happen. Using childlike logic, he concluded, there must be something wrong with me because fill in the blank. When I cry, no one comes. Mom gets that look on her face. Dad left and didn't come back. Mom has to do everything for me. Dad yells at me. I'm not perfect like Mom and Dad. I can't make Mom happy. These childhood experiences also caused the young boy to believe, I'm only good enough and lovable when fill in the blank, I'm different from Dad. Mom needs me. I don't make any mistakes. I make good grades. I'm happy. I'm not like my brother. I don't cause anyone any problems. I make Mom and Dad happy. Survival mechanisms as a result of their childhood abandonment experiences and the inaccurate interpretation of these events, all nice guys developed survival mechanisms to help them do three very important things. 1. Try to pain and terror caused by their abandonment experiences. 2. Try to prevent these abandonment experiences from occurring again. 3. Try to hide their toxic shame from themselves and others. For nice guys, these survival mechanisms took the form of the following life paradigm: if I can hide my flaws and become what I think others want me to be, then I will be loved, get my needs met, and have a problem-free life. It is this paradigm, formed in childhood, that guides and controls everything nice guys do in their adult lives. Even though it is based on faulty interpretations of childhood events, it is the only roadmap these men have. Nice guys believe this map is accurate, and if they follow it correctly, they should arrive at their desired location, a smooth, happy life. Even though this life script is often highly ineffective, nice guys frequently just keep trying harder, doing more of the same, hoping for different results. 2. Guys, the survival mechanisms that nice guys develop to deal with their abandonment experiences and internalized toxic shame are usually manifested in one of two ways. In one form, a nice guy exaggerates his belief about his not okayness and believes he is the worst kind of person. I call this man the I'm so bad nice guy. The I'm so bad nice guy is convinced everyone can see how bad he is. He can give concrete examples of bad behavior in childhood, adolescence, and adulthood that support his core belief about himself. He can tell of breaking windows and getting whippings as a little boy. He will reveal running afoul of the law and making his mother cry when he was a teenager. He will tell tales of smoking, drinking, using drugs, and carousing as an adult. He is convinced his only hope for having any kind of happiness in life lies in trying his best to mask his inherent badness. He never really believes anyone will buy into his nice guy persona, but doesn't think he has any other choice. The second kind of nice guy is the I'm so good nice guy. This man handles his toxic shame by repressing his core belief about his worthlessness. He believes he is one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. If he is conscious of any perceived flaws, they are seen as minor and easily correctable. As a child, he was never a moment's problem. As a teen, he did everything right. As an adult, he follows all the rules to a T. This nice guy has tucked his core belief about his not okayness into a handy, airtight compartment deep in his unconscious mind. He masks his toxic shame with a belief that all the good things he does make him a good person. Even though the two kinds of nice guys may differ in their conscious awareness of their toxic shame, both operate from the same life paradigm. All nice guys believe they are not okay just as they are, and therefore must hide their flaws and become what they believe other people want. I'm between the two kinds of nice guys to help both see their distortions. Neither is as bad or good as they believe themselves to be. They are both just wounded souls operating from a belief system based on the inaccurate perceptions of the events of their childhood. Breaking free activity number 3. It is impossible to cover every factor that might cause a young boy to try to hide his perceived flaws and seek approval from others. I don't believe it is essential for nice guys to uncover every experience that ever made them feel unsafe or bad. But I have found that some understanding of where a life script originated is helpful in changing that script. Reread the stories of Alan, Jason, and Jose. Think about how these stories are similar to your own childhood experiences. On a separate piece of paper or journal, write down or illustrate the messages you received in your family that seem to imply that it wasn't okay for you to be who you were, just as you were. Share these experiences with a safe person. As you do, make note of your feelings. Do you feel sad, angry, lonely, numb? Share this information as well. The purpose of this assignment is to name, rather than blame. Blaming will keep you stuck. Naming the childhood experiences that led you to believe that it was not a safe or acceptable thing for you to be just who you were will allow you replace these messages with more accurate ones and help you change your nice guy script. The baby boom generation and the sensitive guy. Every child who has ever lived has experienced various forms of abandonment. There are many ways in which children can interpret and respond to these events. As stated above, becoming a nice guy is just one of many possible reactions. The childhood experiences described above are probably not sufficient in just themselves, however, to account for the multitude of nice guys I encounter regularly. I have no doubt that nice guys have always existed. There have always been Marvin Milquetoast and Walter Mitty kinds of guys out. I've been a shortage of mama's boys and henpecked husbands. I believe many little boys are born with a peaceful, generous temperament and grow up to be peaceful, generous men. But after years of working with countless men, I am convinced that a unique combination of social dynamics over the last 5 decades has produced a plethora of nice guys in historically unprecedented numbers. To truly understand the current phenomena of the nice guy syndrome, we have to take into account a series of significant social changes that began around the turn of the century and accelerated following World War II. These social dynamics included the transition from an agrarian to an industrial economy, the movement of families from rural areas to urban areas, the absence of fathers from the home, the increase in divorce, single-parent homes, and homes headed by women, an educational system dominated by women, women's liberation and feminism, the Vietnam War, the sexual revolution. These combined to have a major impact on American boys growing up in this era. These social changes created 3 profound dynamics that contributed to the widespread phenomena of the nice guy syndrome in the baby boom generation. 1. Boys were separated from their fathers and other significant male role models. As a result, men became disconnected from other men in general and confused as to what it meant to be male. 2. Boys were left to be raised by women. The job of turning boys into men was left to mothers and a school system dominated by women. As a result, men became comfortable being defined by women and became dependent on the approval of women. 3. Radical feminism implied that men were bad and/or unnecessary. The messages of radical feminism furthered the belief of many men that if they wanted to be loved and get their needs met, they had to become what they believed women wanted them to be. For many men, this meant trying to hide any traits that might cause them to be labeled as bad men. 101. The following is a brief overview of how some of the dynamic social changes of the last half of the 20th century helped create the bumper crop of nice guys in our culture. The loss of fathers, the shift to a manufacturing society, and an urban migration in the post-war years took fathers away from their sons in droves. According to the U.S. Census, In 1910, one-third of all families lived on farms. By 1940, this number had shrunk to 1 in 5. By 1970, 96% of all families lived in urban areas. In an agrarian society, boys connected with their fathers by working alongside them in the fields. This often meant contact with extended family that included grandfathers, uncles, and cousins. This daily contact with men provided boys with an intimate model of maleness. Sons learned about being male by watching their dads, just as their own fathers had learned by watching their fathers. As families migrated from rural areas to cities and suburbs after World War II, the contact between fathers and sons diminished significantly. Dads left home in the morning and went to work. Most sons never got to see what their fathers did, let alone have much time to spend with them. Fathers became unavailable in other ways. Men's addictions to work, TV, alcohol, and sex took them away from their sons. Increases in divorce began to separate boys from their fathers. Census statistics show that the incidence of divorce among men tripled from 1940 to 1970. In 1940, just over 5 million households were headed by women. By 1970, this figure had almost tripled to over 13 million households. In general, the nice guys I have worked with do not report having had a close, bonded relationship with their fathers in childhood. Sometimes this was a result of their fathers working long hours, being withdrawn, or being passive. More often than not, nice guys describe their fathers in negative terms. They are as controlling, rageful, angry, absent, abusive, unavailable, addictive, or philandering. It is not unusual at some point in childhood for nice guys to have made a conscious decision to be different from their fathers. The unavailability of dads during this era often required mothers to take over the job of the fathers. Women inherited the de facto job of turning boys into men. Unfortunately, even the most well-meaning mothers are not equipped to teach their sons how to be men by themselves. This hasn't kept them from trying. I believe the significant number of nice guys produced in the 40s, 50s, and 60s is the direct result of mothers, not fathers, teaching their sons how to be male. Consequently, many nice guys have adopted a female perspective of masculinity and are comfortable having their manhood defined by women. The female-dominated educational system, the modern educational system, has also contributed to the dynamic of boys being raised by women. Since World War II, boys have entered schools dominated by females. The first several years in school become basic training in how to please women. From kindergarten through 6th grade, I'm a victim of her dysfunction. Carl, a successful businessman in his mid-30s, began his first counseling session with the preceding analysis of his relationship with his wife Danita. Though over 6'2" and professionally dressed in a dark suit and tie, Carl looked like a little boy sitting on the sofa in my office. Carl's frustration and helplessness regarding his most intimate relationship was unmistakable. As Carl continued to talk about his marriage, it became apparent that he was intimidated by his wife Danita. He claimed she was angry all the time. When talking about her, he used adjectives like relentless and steamroller. Because of his fear of her anger, he lied to her and avoided interacting with her. In many ways, Carl revealed, Danita is just like my mother. There was just no pleasing mom. I learned to her and tune her out when she was bitching. I got really good at lying and hiding what I didn't want her to know about. I guess I'm still pretty good at that today. As Carl brought the discussion back to the present, he revealed, every other area of my life is great. If it wasn't for Danita, my life would be perfect. I just don't think she knows how to be happy. Intimate strangers in general, nice guys end up in my office for one of two reasons. Sometimes some hidden behavior, an affair, surfing for pornography on the internet, smoking pot, has blown up in their face and created a crisis with their wife or girlfriend. More often, their call to a therapist is motivated by some problem or dissatisfaction in their most intimate relationship. Their wife or girlfriend doesn't want to have sex as often as they do, she is depressed, angry, unavailable, or unfaithful, or all of the above. These men usually believe there is a simple answer to their problem. Some of them are sure everything will be okay if they can just stop doing that one thing that keeps making their wife or girlfriend so angry. The rest of them are convinced that if they can get their wife or girlfriend to change, then life will be great. Intimate relationships are often an area of great frustration and bewilderment for nice guys. Most nice guys profess a great desire for intimacy and happiness with their significant other. Nevertheless, intimacy represents an enigmatic riddle for the majority of these men. Robert Bly, the author of Iron John, writes about how the social changes of the baby boom era created a new breed of American men. Bly calls these men soft males. He writes, "They're lovely, valuable people, I like them, they're not interested in harming the earth or starting wars. There's a gentle attitude toward life in their whole being and style of living." But many of these men are not happy. You quickly notice the lack of energy in them. They are life-preserving, but not exactly. Ironically, you often see these men with strong women who positively radiate energy. Here we have a finely tuned young man, ecologically superior to his father, sympathetic to the whole harmony of the universe, yet he himself has little vitality to offer. From a different perspective, Camille Paglia comments on how the social changes of the last 5 decades have changed roles of men and women. The hard-driving woman has to switch personae when she gets home. She's got to throttle back, or she'll castrate everything in the domestic niche. Many white, middle-class women have dodged this dilemma by finding themselves a nice, malleable boyman who becomes another son in the subliminally matriarchal house. Politically incorrect desires, Salon, issue 49, regardless of whether we call these men soft males, sensitive new age guys, or nice guys, the unique combination of social events in the post-World War II era reinforced and magnified the messages that many little boys had already received from their families, that they weren't okay just as they were. These social events further amplified the belief that if they wanted to be loved, get their needs met, and have a smooth life, they had to hide their flaws and become what others, especially women, wanted them to be. My observation in recent years points to the reality that the conditioning described above did not end with the baby boom generation. I am seeing more and more young men in their 20s, and even teens, who demonstrate all of the characteristics of the nice guy syndrome. Not only have these young men been affected by all of the social dynamics listed above, even more grew up in single-parent families or were raised by nice guy fathers. As I write this, I expect that we are just beginning on our 3rd generation of nice guys. The habits of highly ineffective men as a result of the family and social conditioning described above, nice guys struggle to get what they want in love and life, and ineffective survival mechanisms, the road map they follow just won't take them where they want to go. This is frustrating. But rather than trying something different, their life paradigm requires that they keep trying harder, doing more of the same. I frequently tell nice guys, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always had. To reiterate what I've illustrated before, nice guys prevent themselves from getting what they want in love and life by seeking the approval of others, trying to hide their perceived flaws and mistakes, putting other people's needs and wants before their own, sacrificing their personal power and playing the role of a victim, disassociating themselves from other men and their own masculine energy, co-creating relationships that are less than satisfying, creating situations in which they do not have very much good sex, failing to live up their full potential. The actors present a proven plan to show recovering nice guys the most effective ways to do something different. Read on. It is time for you to start getting what you want in love and life. Chapter 3 Learn to please the only person who really matters. I'm a chameleon, revealed Todd, a 30-year-old single nice guy. I will become whatever I believe a person wants me to be in order to be liked. With my smart friends, I act intelligent and use a big vocabulary. Around my mother, I look like the perfect loving son. With my dad, I talk sports. With the guys at work, I cuss and swear, whatever it takes to look cool. Underneath it all, I'm not sure who I really am or if any of them would like me just for who I am. If I can't figure out what people want me to be, I'm afraid I will be all alone. The funny thing is, I feel alone most of the time anyway. Just about everything a nice guy does is consciously or unconsciously calculated to gain someone's approval or to avoid disapproval. Nice guys seek this external validation in just about every relationship and social situation, even from strangers and people they don't like. Todd is an example of a man who, because of internalized toxic shame, believes he has to become what he thinks other people want him to be. Nice guys believe this chameleon-like metamorphism is essential if they hope to be loved, get their needs met, and have a problem-free life. The seeking of external validation is just one way in which nice guys frequently do the opposite of what works. By trying to please everyone, nice guys often end up pleasing no one, including themselves. Seeking approval, because nice guys do not believe they are okay just as they are, they find a multitude of ways to convince themselves and others that they are lovable and desirable. They may focus on something about themselves, physical appearance, talent, intellect, something they do, act nice, dance well, work hard, or even something external to themselves, attractive wife, cute child, nice car, in order to get value and win others' approval. Value-seeking mechanisms is attachments. Nice guys attach their identity and worth to these things and use them to convince themselves and others that they are valuable. Without these attachments, nice guys don't know what else about themselves would make anyone like or love them. Being a nice guy is the ultimate attachment for these men. They genuinely believe their commitment to being good and doing it right is what makes them valuable and compensates for their internalized belief that they are bad. Because of their toxic shame, it is impossible for nice guys to grasp that people might like them and love them just for who they are. They believe they are bad. The "I'm so good" nice guy is unconscious of this core belief, but it is a core belief nonetheless, therefore they assume that if anyone really got to know them, these people would discover the same thing. They attach themselves to things that make them feel valuable and garner approval from others seems essential if they hope to be loved, get their needs met, and have a problem-free life. Breaking free activity number 4. I've taken surveys in several No More Mr. Nice Guy groups asking the members about the attachments they use to try to get external approval. The following are just a few of the responses. Look over the list. Note any of the ways in which you seek approval. Add to the list any behaviors that are uniquely you. Write down examples of each. Ask others for feedback about the ways in which they see you seeking approval. Having one's hair just right. Being smart. Having a pleasant, non-threatening voice. Looking unselfish. Themselves to things that make them feel valuable and garner approval from others. Being able to attach themselves to things that make them feel valuable and garner approval from others seems essential if they hope to be loved, get their needs met, and have a problem-free life. Breaking free activity number 4. I've taken surveys in several No More Mr. Nice Guy groups asking the members about the attachments they use to try to get external approval. The following are just a few of the responses. Look over the list. Note any of the ways in which you seek approval. Add to the list any behaviors that are uniquely you. Write down examples of each. Ask others for feedback about the ways in which they see you seeking approval. Having one's hair just right. Being smart. Having a pleasant, non-threatening voice. Looking unselfish. Being different from other men. Staying sober. Being in good shape. Being a great dancer. Being a good lover. Never getting angry. Making other people happy. Being a good worker. Having a clean car. Dressing well. Being nice. Respecting women. Never offending anyone. Looking like a good father. Attachments. Hal is a typical nice guy in the way he uses attachments to seek approval. Cal tries to get external validation by always being in a good mood, driving a nice car, dressing well, having a cute daughter, and having an attractive wife. Let's pick one of these attachments to illustrate how Cal tries to get approval from others. Cal likes to dress his 14-month-old daughter in a cute dress and take her to the park. From the moment he begins to dress her, he is unconsciously attaching his value and identity to the acknowledgement he thinks he will receive from being a good dad. He knows that when he takes his daughter walking, people will look at her and smile. Some will comment about the cute little girl and her father out for a walk. A few will stop and ask her age, and others will gush about what a precious little angel she is. This attention makes Cal feel good about himself. The irony is that no one really values Cal for his attachments. Dependency on external validation actually prevents people from getting to know him just as he is. None of these things have anything to do with who he is as a person. Nevertheless, they are the things he believes give him identity and value. Seeking the approval of women. Nice guys seek external validation in just about every social situation, but their quest for approval is the most pronounced in their relationships with women. Nice guys interpret a woman's approval as the ultimate validation of their worth. Signs of a woman's approval can take the form of her desire to have sex, flirtatious behavior, a smile, a touch, or attentiveness. At the other end of the spectrum, if a woman is depressed, in a bad mood, or angry, nice guys interpret these things to mean that she is not accepting or approving of them. There are numerous negative consequences in seeking the approval of women. Seeking women's approval requires nice guys to constantly monitor the possibility of a woman's availability. The availability is a term I use to describe the subjective measure of a woman's sexual availability. Since nice guys see sex as the ultimate form of acceptance, and they believe a woman must be in a good mood before she will have sex, these men are constantly diligent to not do anything that might upset a woman whom they desire. In addition, if a woman they desire is angry, depressed, or in a bad mood, they believe they must do something quickly, lie, offer solutions, sacrifice self, manipulate, to fix it. The possibility of availability extends beyond just sex. Since nice guys have been conditioned by their families and society to never do anything to upset a woman, they are hypervigilant in responding to the moods and desires of women they don't even plan on having sex with. Seeking women's approval gives women the power to set the tone of the relationship. Nice guys constantly report that their own moods are often tied to the moods of their partner. If she is happy and doing okay, so is he. If she is angry, depressed, or stressed, he will feel anxious until she is fixed. This connection runs so deep that many nice guys have told me that they feel guilty if they are in a good mood when their partner is not. Seeking women's approval gives women the power to define men and determine their worth. If a woman says he is wrong or thinks he is a jerk, a nice guy will be inclined to believe she is right. Even if the nice guy argues with the woman's evaluation, at some level he knows that since she is the woman, she must be right. One nice guy asked me, if a man is talking in the forest and no woman is there to hear him, is he still wrong? Seeking women's approval creates rage toward women. Though most nice guys claim to love women, the truth is, most of these men have tremendous rage toward women. This is because we tend to eventually despise whatever we make into our God. When our God fails to respond in the ways we expect, we humans tend to respond in one of two we intensify our acts of worship or lash out in righteous anger. When nice guys put a woman or women on a pedestal and attempt to win their approval, sooner or later, this adoration will turn to rage when these objects of worship fail to live up to the nice guy's expectations. This is why it is not unusual to hear a nice guy proclaim his undying love to a woman in one breath and then ragefully call her a F.C. only moments later. Breaking free activity number 5. If you did not care what people thought of you, how would you live your life differently? If you were not concerned with getting the approval of women, how would your relationships with the opposite sex be different? Cover-up artists. When my son Steve was 9 years old, he accidentally poked some holes in our kitchen table with a ballpoint pen. When he realized what he had done, he immediately showed his mother the damage. Steve had appropriate, healthy shame about his mistake. He knew that his actions had caused damage to the table. He had to take responsibility. Most importantly, he knew he wasn't bad. If I had done the same thing as a child, or even as an adult, I would have had an attack of toxic shame and tried my best to hide or deny what I had done. I would have been convinced someone was going to be angry at me and stop loving me. I would have lived with the secret as well as a constant fear of being found out. Numerous nice guys have commented that they could relate to my son's situation. Without exception, every one of them has admitted that they would have done the opposite of what Steve did, tried to cover it up. As stated above, everything a nice guy does is calculated to try to win approval or avoid disapproval. Since nice guys do not believe they are okay just as they are, they see any mistake or perceived flaw as proof that they are bad and unlovable. They believe that if anyone sees how bad they really are, they will be hurt, shamed, or abandoned. As a result, nice guys are consummate cover-up artists. All copyright served, Resonant Red Studio. Nice guys believe they must hide or distract attention from any perceived shortcoming. If they forget something. If they are late. If they break something. If they don't understand something. If they do something wrong. If they are depressed. If they are in pain. If they generally mess up. The nice guy's need to hide is often the most pronounced in areas that are just part of being human and alive. That they are sexual. That they have bodily functions. That they are getting older. That they are losing their hair. That they have needs. That they are imperfect. Breaking free activity number 6. Look over the lists above. Write down examples of situations in which you have tried to hide or distract attention from any of these perceived flaws. How effective do you think you are in keeping these things hidden from the people you love? Hiding the evidence. Nice guys find many creative ways to cover up their perceived flaws and mistakes. These include lying. Most nice guys pride themselves on being honest and trustworthy. Ironically, nice guys are fundamentally dishonest. Nice guys will tell lies, partial truths, and omit information if they believe it will prevent someone from focusing on them in a negative way. Drawing on their account. Since nice guys strive so hard to be good, giving, and caring, they believe these acts should build up a credit that wipes clean any wrong they might do. Part of the nice guy's belief is that if he does most things right, no one should ever notice the few things, if any, he does wrong. Fixing. Mature people take responsibility for their actions. When they make a mistake or act inappropriately, they apologize, make amends, or repair the damage. Conversely, nice guys try to fix situations by doing whatever it takes to get the other person to stop being upset. DEAR response. DEAR is an acronym I use for defend, explain, excuse, rationalize. These are all fear-based behaviors used to distract others from focusing on the nice guy's mistakes and bad. Most likely to go into the DEAR response when he has done something or failed to do something, and someone, usually wife, partner, or boss, confronts him and expresses his or her feelings. Turning the tables. If someone gets angry at a nice guy or points out some flaw or mistake, his shame will be triggered. In an attempt to distract himself and the other person from his badness, he may try to turn the tables and do something to trigger the other person's shame. I call this shame dumping. This unconscious strategy is based on the belief that if the nice guy can shift the focus to the other person's badness, he can slip out of the spotlight. Typical shame dumping techniques include blame, bringing up the past, deflection, and pointing out the other person's flaws. Walls. Nice guys build walls that prevent others from getting too close. Understandably, this affects their ability to be intimate, but it also protects them from the consequences of being found out. These walls might include addictions, food, sex, TV, alcohol, work, etc., humor, sarcasm, intellectualism, perfectionism, and isolation. Teflon men. As much as nice guys try to look good and get people to like them, the above defenses keep people at arm's length. Like most nice guy patterns, these unconscious behaviors actually accomplish the exact opposite of what the nice guy really craves. While desiring love and connection, his behaviors serve as an invisible force field that keeps people from being able to get close to him. Nice guys have a difficult time comprehending that in general, people are not drawn to perfection in others. People are drawn to shared interests, shared problems, and an individual's life energy. Humans connect with humans. This paradigm shift is always terrifying for recovering nice guys. The idea of making their needs a priority feels like the quickest route to being disliked, unloved, and all alone. Whenever I challenge nice guys to focus on making their needs a priority, their responses are pretty predictable. People will get angry at me. People will think I'm selfish. I'll be alone. What if everyone lived this way? I then list the benefits for nice guys and the people around them when they begin to put themselves first. They increase the likelihood of getting what they need and want. They can give judiciously, giving what people really need. They can give without resentment and expectation. They become less needy. They become more attractive. Most nice guys will really like the last benefit on the list. Helpless, whiny, wimpy, and needy are not attractive on a man. Confidence and self-assurance are. Most folks are attracted to men who have a sense. Putting the self first doesn't drive people away, it attracts them. Putting the self first is essential for getting what one wants in love and life. Taking responsibility for their own needs helps nice guys get their needs met. In order for nice guys to get their needs met, they must begin to shift their core paradigms. This shift includes coming to believe having needs is part of being human. Mature people make meeting their own needs a priority. They can ask for help in meeting their needs in clear and direct ways. Other people really do want to help them meet their needs. This world is a place of abundance. In order to get their needs met, recovering nice guys must do something radically different from what they have done previously. For nice guys, putting the self first is not just a suggestion to try on for size. It is essential not only for getting needs met, but also for reclaiming personal power, feeling fully alive, and experiencing love and intimacy. Interestingly enough, when nice guys take responsibility for their own needs and make them a priority, those around them benefit too. Gone are the covert contracts, the guessing games, the anger outbursts, and passive-aggressive behavior. Gone are the manipulation, the controlling behavior, and the resentment. I learned this lesson firsthand a few years back. A holiday weekend was approaching and our kids were going to be out of town. I tried to plan some time with my wife Elizabeth, but she seemed ambivalent and unwilling to make a commitment to what she wanted to do. I felt frustrated and put my plans on hold. Finally, upon the urging of a friend, I decided to try putting myself first over the weekend. I made plans and invited my wife to join me if she felt inclined. I did several things I wanted, including spending some time with friends. As it turned out, Elizabeth decided to join me on a number of occasions. On Monday, she shared with me that she had thoroughly enjoyed the weekend and didn't want it to end. A challenge in a session of one of my No More Mr. Nice Guy men's groups, I challenged each of the group members to experiment with putting themselves first for at least a week. Though the challenge created tremendous anxiety for all of the men, each decided to accept it. The experiences of three of Lars, Reese, and Shane are presented below. Lars, introduced at the beginning of the chapter, went home after the group and told his wife that he was going to make his needs a priority for the following week. She was initially resistant to his proclamation, which added to his anxiety. To boost his courage, Lars called a couple of men in the group. Their encouragement gave him the support he needed to follow through with his commitment. Lars decided to keep it simple. His plan for the week involved making time every day to go to the gym and work out. Before his children were born, Lars had been physically active. The demands of job, home, and children had put an end to that. Lars decided to alternate his workouts before and after work. When he shared his plan with his wife, she applied a little guilt. "That's not fair that you get to work out and I don't," she proclaimed. Lars was tempted to back down. He had an impulse to try to find a solution so his wife could work out too. Instead, he reflected her concern and told her he was going to work out anyway. During his first couple of trips to the gym, Lars was overwhelmed with guilt and anxiety. Nevertheless, he persevered. After the third day, his wife actually asked him how his workout went. As the week continued, Lars began to feel more energized and optimistic about life. He started sleeping better. He enjoyed being around other people at the gym who were also taking good care of themselves. Surprisingly, after his first week, his wife told him that he had inspired her to start taking better care of herself. She told him that she was going to start dropping the kids off at the daycare center at the gym and begin an aerobics class for herself. Reese had joined the No More Mr. Nice Guy group after his breakup with his last girlfriend. Reese's habit on weekends was to go out with his latest girlfriend to bars on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. By Monday morning, he was exhausted. He would spend the rest of the week playing catch-up. Reese was afraid that if he didn't go out whenever his girlfriend wanted, she would leave him. Reese decided that for one weekend, he would put himself first and do what felt right to him. He told his girlfriend in advance. Reese decided that he would go out just one night, not drink, and be in by midnight. On Saturday, he made some plans to go to a movie with a couple of guys in the group. On Sunday he stayed at home to relax and get caught up on some house cleaning and laundry. His goal was to be in bed by 10 p.m. on Sunday evening. When Monday came, Reese felt rested and clear-headed at work. His boyfriend hadn't dropped him, and the rest of the week felt productive and enjoyable. Shane, also introduced earlier in the chapter, liked to do things for his girlfriend. Shane regularly gave her gifts, planned surprises, and did whatever he could to help her out. Shane's plan for putting himself first involved paying attention to when he had an impulse to do something for his girlfriend. Whenever he felt this impulse, he would instead do something for himself. When he thought about washing her car, he washed his own instead. When he felt the urge to buy her a gift, he bought himself something instead. When he thought about calling her just to see if she was okay, he called a group member instead. All of this created tremendous anxiety for Shane. Much to his surprise, at the end of the week Raquel reported she felt a lot less smothered by Shane and actually looked forward to spending time with him. She even called late one evening after the kids were in bed and invited him over to make love. A couple of weeks later, Shane and Raquel talked about the change in a couples counseling session. They decided to continue the process. For a period of 6 months, they agreed that Shane would not give any gifts or plan any surprises for Raquel. During the following 6 months he refrained from giving her birthday, Christmas, and Valentine's cards or gifts. During this time, he focused on taking better care of himself and getting his needs met. In time, Shane came to see that not only did Raquel not stop loving him, she actually became more giving to Shane. 1 year later, they both reported that Shane could give a gift without using it as a way to get approval or affirmation. During this time, Shane had also learned that making his needs a priority made him less dependent, needy, and fearful. Both Shane and Raquel reported enjoying all the changes they had experienced since Shane made the decision to start putting himself first. Making the decision. Nice guys have believed a myth that promises them that if they give up themselves and put others first, they will be loved and get their needs met. There is only one way to change this illogical, non-productive nice guy paradigm: putting themselves first. Making the decision to put the self first is the hardest part. Actually doing it is relatively easy. When the nice guy puts himself first, there is only one voice to consider: his own. Decisions are now made by one individual, rather than by a committee. He no longer has to mind read, predict, or try to please multiple voices with conflicting agendas. When putting himself first, all the information he needs to make a decision is within him. Is this what I want? Yes. And then that's what I'll do. Breaking free activity number 16. Make a decision to put yourself first for a weekend or even a whole week. Tell the people around you what you are doing. Ask a friend to support you and encourage you in this process. Pay attention to your initial anxiety. Pay attention to your tendency to revert to old patterns. At the end of the time period, ask people around you what it was like for them when you put yourself first. Remember, you don't have to do it perfectly. Just do it. Breaking free from the nice guy syndrome involves taking responsibility for one's own needs. Others may cooperate with the nice guy, but they are not in charge of meeting his needs. By making their needs a priority and putting themselves first, recovering nice guys can come to see the world as a place of abundance. They can truly come to believe that their needs are important and there are people out there who are happy and willing to help them meet them. Chapter 5: Reclaim Your Personal Power. One Saturday morning a few years back, my wife Elizabeth and I engaged in a heated discussion over something I had done. Like many of our arguments, Elizabeth felt helpless to get me to see my denial. At the same time, I felt unjustly persecuted. Finally, when the argument reached an emotional crescendo, Elizabeth shouted in frustration, "You're nothing but a wimp." Elizabeth left the room and I retreated to the bathroom to dry my eyes. After a few minutes of reflection, Elizabeth knocked on the bathroom door. I assumed she was coming back to take another stab at her wounded prey. Instead, she apologized. "I'm sorry for calling you a wimp. That wasn't fair." "Actually," I responded, wiping a tear away, "it was the most accurate thing you said all morning. Nice guys are wimps." This may not sound like a nice thing to say, but it's true. Nice guys tend to be wimpy victims because their life paradigm and childhood survival mechanisms require them to sacrifice their personal power. As stated in previous chapters, a common denominator for nice guys is that they did not get their needs met in a timely, healthy fashion in childhood. These little boys were helpless to prevent people from abandoning them, neglecting them, abusing them, using them, or smothering them. They were victims to the people who failed to love them, pay attention to them, meet their needs, and protect them. As a result of these childhood experiences, feeling like a victim feels familiar for most nice guys. These men tend to see others as causing the problems they are experiencing in life. As a consequence, they often feel frustrated, helpless, resentful, and rageful. You can see it in their body language. You can hear it in their voices. It's not fair. How come she gets to make the rules? I always give more than I get. If she would just. A paradigm of powerlessness in an attempt to cope with their childhood abandonment experiences. All nice guys develop the same paradigm: if I am good, then I will be loved, get my needs met, and have a problem-free life. Unfortunately, this paradigm not only produces the opposite of what is desired, it guarantees nothing but feelings of perpetual powerlessness. Even though nice guys are obsessed with trying to create a smooth, problem-free life, two major factors prevent them from attaining this goal. The first is that they are attempting the impossible. Life is not smooth. Human existence is by nature chaotic. Life is filled with experiences that are unpredictable and beyond anyone's control. Therefore, trying to create a predictable life in which everything always goes as planned is an exercise in futility. In spite of the fact that we live in a chaotic, unpredictable world, nice guys are not only convinced that life can be smooth, they believe it should be. This belief is the direct result of their childhood abandonment experiences. The unpredictability of not having their needs met in a timely, judicious fashion was not only frightening, it was potentially life-threatening. In an attempt to cope with the uncertainty of their chaotic childhood, nice guys developed a belief system that if they could just do everything right, then everything would go right in their lives. Sometimes these men also developed belief systems that their childhood was ideal and problem-free, the opposite of reality, in order to cope with their abandonment experiences. These were all distorted beliefs, but these illusions helped these helpless little boys deal with the turmoil that was out of their control. A second reason nice guys never accomplish their goal of having a smooth life is that they do the opposite of what works. By approaching adult situations with survival mechanisms that were formed when they were naive and powerless, they are ensured of having very little success in creating anything that resembles stability in their lives. The dependence on these ineffective survival mechanisms keeps nice guys trapped in the memory of their fearful childhood experiences and perpetuates a vicious cycle. The more frightened they are, the more they use their childhood survival mechanisms. The more they use these ineffective mechanisms, the less successful they are at negotiating the complexities, challenges, and ambiguities of life. The less successful they are, the more fearful they become. You get the picture. Breaking free activity number 17. Look over the following list of ways nice guys try to create a smooth, problem-free life. Write down an example of how you used each coping mechanism in childhood. Then, next to each, give an example of how you use this strategy to try to control your world in adulthood. Note how each of these behaviors keeps you feeling like a powerless victim. Share this information with a safe person. Doing it right. Playing it safe. Anticipating and fixing. Trying not to rock the boat. Being charming and helpful. Never being a moment's problem. Using covert contracts. Controlling and manipulating. Caretaking and pleasing. Withholding information. Repressing feelings. Making sure other people don't have feelings. Avoiding problems and difficult situations. Overcoming the wimp factor. Reclaiming personal power. I define personal power as a state of mind in which a person is confident he can handle whatever may come. This kind of power not only successfully deals with problems, challenges, and adversity, it actually welcomes them, meets them head-on, and is thankful for them. Personal power isn't the absence of fear. Even the most powerful people have fear. Personal power is the result of feeling fear, but not giving in to the fear. There is a solution to the helplessness and vulnerability nice guys feel. Recovery from the nice guy syndrome allows nice guys to embrace the personal power that is their birthright. Reclaiming personal power includes surrendering, dwelling in reality, expressing feelings, facing fears, developing integrity, setting boundaries. Surrendering helps nice guys reclaim their personal power. Ironically, the most important aspect of reclaiming personal power and getting what one wants in love and life is surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up, it means letting go of what one can't change and changing what one can. Letting go doesn't mean not caring or not trying. Letting go means letting be. It is like opening up a tightly clenched fist and releasing the tension stored inside. At first, the fingers will want to return to their former clenched position. The hand almost has to be retrained to open up and relax. So it is with learning how to surrender and let go. Surrender allows recovering nice guys to let go and respond to life's complex beauty, rather than trying to control it. Surrender allows these men to see life as a laboratory for learning, growth, and creativity. Surrender allows recovering nice guys to see each life experience as a gift from the universe to stimulate growth, healing, and learning. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the recovering nice guy can respond to life's challenges by pondering, "What do I need to learn from this situation?" Gil exemplifies the process of letting go. Gil had reached a crisis point in his relationship with his girlfriend Barb. Gil had originally begun couples counseling with Barb to fix her problem. He claimed that she was depressed, angry all the time, and had no interest in sex. He reported that he constantly walked on eggshells, trying to make sure he never did anything to upset her. Gil and Barb were both in their early 50s and had been living together for 8 years. They had discussed marriage, but both felt apprehension due to the unsettled nature of their relationship. After a couple months of couples counseling, Gil began to entertain the idea that all the problems in the relationship might not be about Barb. He began looking at his own caretaking and controlling behavior. He also became aware that he had few outside interests and no male friends. After a couple more months, he joined a No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group. Even as Gil began to look at his own problems and ineffective life patterns, he kept seeking the key for making Barb better. It was a slow process, but Gil began to see that he could not do anything to change Barb and that he was going to have to focus on himself. As he began to let go and detach from Barb, he felt tremendous anxiety. He had a deep fear that he was going to get in trouble. He also believed that Barb couldn't handle her problems without his help. With the support of the group, Gil surrendered. He came to realize that he would be okay regardless of whether he and Barb made it as a couple. Much to his surprise, their relationship began to improve. As he let go of trying to solve her problems and detached from her moods, Gil found that he had fewer frustrations and resentments. He even began to see Barb as a gift to help him work through his issues with his angry father. A year later, he announced to his men's group that he and Barb had set a date to get married. He reported that they were getting along better than he would have ever imagined. He shared that the turning point seemed to be when he made the decision that he didn't care whether they made it together or not. That decision represented a conscious letting go of trying to control something that was clearly not in his control. Ironically, he shared that the process of letting go allowed him to receive what he really wanted. Breaking free activity number 18. Think about one gift from the universe which you initially resisted but can now be seen as a positive stimulus for growth or discovery. Are there any similar gifts in your life right now to which you need to surrender? Share this information with a safe person. Dwelling in reality helps nice guys reclaim their personal power. Nice guys try to control their world by creating belief systems about people and situations that are not based in reality. They then act as if these beliefs are accurate. This is why their behavior often seems illogical to outside observers. Les, an unassuming man in his late 30s, had a brief affair with a coworker. During his initial therapy session, I asked Les why he thought he had an affair. "I don't know," he replied, "I guess I just wanted some attention." I continued by asking him how he expressed his anger toward his wife. With a puzzled look, he responded, "I never get angry at Sarah." "You mean you two have been married for 10 years and she's never done anything to piss you off?" I asked in mock surprise. To listen to Les talk about his wife, it was evident he had her on a pedestal. It was as equally clear that he was not dwelling in reality when it came to his marriage. When I asked specific questions about his wife, Les revealed how Sarah had gained 60 pounds since they married, refused to cook, was depressed, no longer wanted to have sex with him, treated him with contempt, and would rage at him without provocation. In spite of all these things, Les maintained that his wife was the woman of his dreams and that he loved her dearly. Throughout the next few months of therapy, I consistently held up a mirror of reality to Les in regard to his wife and his relationship with her. This was a slow and difficult process. Les needed to see Sarah in a certain way because of his fear of being alone. To dwell in reality might mean he would have to do something frightening or difficult. As Les began to face his fears of abandonment, he also began to see his wife more accurately. This change allowed him to start asking for what he wanted, set boundaries, and express his feelings of resentment and anger. It soon became apparent that Sarah had no desire to look at her role in the relationship or make any kind of changes. Though it was painful and frightening, accepting things as they really were allowed Les to make the decision to move out and file for divorce. Dwelling in reality allowed Les to look at why he had created the kind of system he had with Sarah. It put him in a position to make difficult but realistic decisions. It allowed him to access the inner power he needed to make significant changes in his life. It also opened the door for him to find someone who was available to help him create the kind of relationship he wanted. Breaking free activity number 19. Pick one area in your life in which you routinely feel frustrated or out of control. Step back from the situation. Is the difficulty you are having with the situation the result of you trying to project the reality you want to believe onto it? If you had to accept the reality of this situation, how might you change your response to it? Expressing feelings helps nice guys reclaim their personal power. Nice guys are terrified of two kinds of feelings, their own and everyone else's. Any kind of intensity causes nice guys to feel out of control. As children, feeling things intensely invited either negative attention or no attention at all. Therefore, it came to feel safer to clamp a lid down tightly on any emotion that might attract too much negative attention or might cause them to feel abandoned. I remember early in our marriage when Elizabeth would express her frustration over my inability to share what I was feeling. Like most nice guys, I had come to see feelings as a dangerous thing. After 30+ years of conditioning, I had no clue what Elizabeth wanted from me. Even as I began to become aware of my feelings, I often kept them to myself. It is almost comical how infrequently it crosses a nice guy's mind to tell his partner what he is feeling. On one occasion, Elizabeth confronted me when I shared a feeling with her that I had been harboring for some time. "Why didn't you tell me about that when you first felt it?" she questioned. "I'm doing better," I replied in typical nice guy fashion. "It only took me 2 weeks to get around to telling you." I frequently hear nice guys rationalize the withholding of their feelings by claiming they don't want to hurt anyone. The truth is they are covering their own butts. What they are really saying is that they don't want to do anything that might recreate their childhood experiences. They're really not trying to protect anyone from harm, they're just trying to keep their world smooth and under control. I frequently tell nice guys, your feelings are just feelings, they won't kill you. Regardless of whether a nice guy is feeling anxious, helpless, shameful, lonely, rageful, or sad, his feelings aren't life-threatening. The goal of teaching nice guys to embrace their feelings is not to make them soft and touchy-feely. Men who are in touch with their feelings are powerful, assertive, and energized. Contrary to what many nice guys believe, they don't have to become more like women in order to have their feelings. This is why I support men in learning about their feelings from other men. While there is no formula or right way to get reconnected with repressed feelings, support groups can teach, model, and support this slow but important process. In a sense, a therapy group can become like a family. In this environment, recovering nice guys can ask for the kind of help in dealing with feelings that was never available to them as children. Since feelings are often messy, a group environment can represent a supportive place to momentarily feel out of control. Here, recovering nice guys find out they won't fall overboard and drown if they rock the boat. They also learn that they won't shrivel up and die if someone else around them has a feeling. Feelings are an integral part of human existence. By learning the language of feelings, recovering nice guys can begin to let go of a lifetime of unnecessary baggage. As they do, they experience a newfound energy, optimism, intimacy, and zest for life. This reality hit home with me a few years ago in a very unexpected way. Elizabeth came to me one day and revealed that she had backed into a parked car. She felt like a bad little child and waited for me to scold her. Even before I had a chance to respond, she began to put up a wall and withdraw as a way of protecting herself. I got angry, not about the car, but about the manner in which she was pushing me away. I expressed my feelings clearly and directly. Without shaming or attacking, I said, "Stop." With an intensity of emotion that surprised both of us, I let her know that I wasn't pushing her away and I wasn't going to accept her pushing me away. I told her that I did have feelings about the car, but I had even stronger feelings about how she was acting. I said, "Just let me have my feelings about the car, and then we'll work it out." Later, Elizabeth revealed to me, and several of her friends, how much safer she felt when I had my feelings. She was able to hear that I was upset about the car, but that I didn't think she was bad and I wasn't going to abandon her. The fact that I had such intensity about not letting her push me away actually made her feel secure and loved. As a result, she felt safe to stay connected to me and hear my feelings about the car. The whole incident brought us closer and has since provided a reference point for the healing power of expressing emotions in powerful and direct ways. Breaking free activity number 20, some guidelines about expressing feelings. Don't focus on the other person, "You are making me mad." Instead, take responsibility for what you are feeling. "I am feeling angry." Don't use feeling words to describe what you are thinking, as in "I feel like Joe was trying to take advantage of me." Instead, pay attention to what you are experiencing in your body. "I'm feeling helpless and frightened." In general, try to begin feeling statements with "I" rather than "you." Try to avoid the crutch of saying "I feel like," as in "I feel like you are being mean to me." Facing fears helps nice guys reclaim their personal power. Fear is a normal part of human experience. Everyone experiences fear, even those people who seem to be fearless. Healthy fear is a warning sign that danger may be approaching. This is different from the fear nice guys experience on a daily basis. For nice guys, fear is recorded at the cellular level. It is a memory of every seemingly life-threatening experience they ever had. It was born of a time of absolute dependency and helplessness. It originated in not having their needs met in a timely, judicious manner. It was fostered by fearful systems that discouraged risk and rewarded conservatism. It was heightened by the reality that life is messy and chaotic and any kind of change promises a journey into the unknown. I call this kind of fear, memory fear. Because of the memory fear created in childhood, nice guys still approach the world as if it is dangerous and overpowering. To cope with these realities, nice guys typically hunker down and play it safe. As a consequence of playing it safe, nice guys experience a lot of needless suffering. Suffering because they avoid new situations. Suffering because they stay with the familiar. Suffering because they procrastinate, avoid, and fail to finish what they start. Suffering because they make a bad situation worse by doing more of what has never worked in the past. Suffering because they expend so much energy trying to control the uncontrollable. Nolan is a good example of the paralyzing effect of memory fear. Nolan came to see me on the recommendation of a friend. He had been separated from his wife for a year, but was having a difficult time making a final decision about getting divorced. Nolan frequently told me he was confused. This confusion was mixed with a strong dose of guilt. Nolan constantly weighed all the issues. What if he left his wife and later realized that it was a mistake? What if he messed up his kids' lives? What if his children never wanted to talk to him again? What if his friends thought he was bad? What if God sent him to hell? As long as Nolan stayed confused about what he should do, he remained paralyzed. When I told Nolan that I didn't think he was confused, but that he was afraid, he was initially defensive. He didn't like seeing himself as being fearful. As we explored the memory fear from his childhood, he came to realize that any mistakes he made as a child seemed to have everlasting consequences. He believed the same would be true in his present situation. Behind Nolan's fear of making a decision was the childhood fear that he wouldn't be able to handle whatever happened. Together, we brainstormed all the possible consequences of divorcing his wife. Behind each potential consequence was the unconscious belief that he wouldn't be able to handle it. I sent Nolan home with his list of fears along with a more accurate statement about each. No matter what happened, he would handle it. The following week, Nolan proudly announced that he had contacted an attorney. Even though he felt tremendous fear and anxiety, he found courage in repeating his newfound mantra, "I can handle it." Facing present-day fears is the only way to overcome memory fear. Every time the nice guy confronts a fear, he unconsciously creates a belief that he can handle whatever it is he is afraid of. This challenges his memory fear. Challenging this memory fear makes the things outside of him seem less threatening. As these things seem less frightening, he feels more confident in confronting them. The more this confidence grows, the less threatening life seems. Breaking free activity number 21. List one fear that has been controlling your life. Once you decide to confront fear, begin repeating to yourself, "I can handle it. No matter what happens, I will handle it." Keep repeating this mantra until you take action and stop feeling fear. Developing integrity helps nice guys reclaim their personal power. Most nice guys pride themselves on being honest and trustworthy. In reality, nice guys are fundamentally dishonest. They have the ability to tell a lie or withhold the truth and still believe the illusion that they are basically honest people. Since dishonesty is a fear-based behavior, telling lies and withholding the truth robs nice guys of their personal power. I define lying as anything less than the truth. This may seem evident to most people, but it is important to define lying and telling the truth, because nice guys are adept at creating definitions that justify their behavior. It is not unusual to hear them make statements like, "I'm pretty honest," or "I'm honest most of the time," without the slightest awareness of their contradiction of terms. In almost a childlike manner, nice guys will often offer the following defense: "I didn't lie, I just didn't tell everything." Joel was the owner of a successful construction company. On occasion, he would leave work a little early and catch an afternoon movie before heading home. Because he feared his wife's disapproval, he would refrain from telling her how he spent those afternoons. He would always have some cover story ready in case she tried to call him while he was out. The irony of the situation is that there was absolutely no reason for Joel to lie to his wife. In spite of all the effort Joel put into hiding the truth of his whereabouts, it never crossed his mind that he was lying to himself and to his wife. The bottom line was that Joel's lying perpetuated a fear-based relationship with his wife and robbed him of his personal power. When nice guys are learning to tell the truth, I encourage them to pay attention to the things they least want others to know, what they least want to reveal. These are the things they are most likely to hold back, and the things they most need to tell. Sometimes they have to practice telling a certain truth several times until all of these pieces of information get told. Sometimes after telling the truth, nice guys will report that it was a mistake because someone reacted with anger. Telling the truth is not a magic formula for having a smooth life. But living a life of integrity is actually easier than living one built around deceit and distortion. Developing integrity is an essential part of our recovery from the nice guy syndrome. My definition of integrity is deciding what feels right and doing it. The alternative is using the committee approach. This method of decision-making and acting is based on trying to guess what everyone else would think is right. Following this committee approach is the quickest path to confusion, fear, powerlessness, and dishonesty. When applying the definition above, there are two ways to be out of integrity, but only one way to be in it. When a nice guy never even bothers to ask himself, what do I think is right, or uses the committee method, he will always be out of integrity. If he asks himself what he believes is right but doesn't do it, he is also out of integrity. Only by asking himself what he believes is right and then doing it does he become a man of integrity. Breaking free activity number 22. Choose one area in which you have been out of integrity. Identify your fear that keeps you from telling the truth or doing the right thing. Reveal this situation to a safe person. Then go and tell the truth or do what you have to do to make the situation right. Tell yourself you can handle it. Since telling the truth may create a crisis for you or others, have faith that everyone involved will survive this crisis. Setting boundaries helps nice guys reclaim their personal power. Boundaries are essential for survival. Learning to set boundaries allows nice guys to stop feeling like helpless victims and reclaim their personal power. Boundary setting is one of the most fundamental skills I teach to recovering nice guys. I demonstrate the concept of boundaries by laying a shoestring on the ground. I tell the nice guy that I am going to cross his boundary and push him backwards. I instruct him to stop me when he begins to feel uncomfortable. It is not unusual for a nice guy to stand well back from the line, allowing me to violate his space several steps before he even begins to respond. Once I start pushing, it's not uncommon for a nice guy to let me push him back several steps before he does anything to stop me. Sometimes a nice guy will let me push him all the way to the wall. I use this exercise as a graphic demonstration of the need for boundaries in all areas of life. Nice guys are usually more comfortable backpedaling, giving in, and keeping the peace. They believe if they take one more step backward, the other person will quit pushing, and then everything will be smooth. It is not unusual for recovering nice guys to go a little overboard when they first learn about boundary setting. They have a tendency to swing from one extreme to another. They become kamikaze boundary setters. They try to set boundaries with a sledgehammer or machete. They usually learn in time that they only have to use as much resistance as necessary to get the job done. In time, they also learn that boundary setting isn't about getting other people to be different, but about getting themselves to be different. If someone is crossing their boundary, it isn't the other person's problem, it is theirs. Because of memory fear, nice guys often unconsciously reinforce the very behaviors they find intolerable. Due to their childhood conditioning, they teach the people around them that they will accept having their boundaries violated. As recovering nice guys begin to take responsibility for how they let people treat them, their own behavior begins to change. As they stop reinforcing things they aren't willing to tolerate, the people around them are given the opportunity to behave differently. This gives relationships a chance to survive and grow. Jake, an enlisted man in his mid-20s, is a good example of how tolerating intolerable behavior can kill a relationship, and how setting boundaries can give a relationship a chance to survive. Just prior to his marriage to his wife Jenny had an affair with an old boyfriend. Because Jake didn't want to lose her, he forgave her and promised to never bring up her infidelity. This established a pattern of Jenny pretty much doing whatever she wanted while Jake withheld his feelings and walked on eggshells. He would always measure his words in order to avoid saying anything wrong that might upset her. On one occasion, while they were out drinking with some friends, Jenny got drunk. Whenever she had too much to drink, she would become belligerent and promiscuous. On this occasion, she made several demeaning remarks to Jake and spent most of the evening slow dancing with other men in the bar. After holding his tongue as long as he could, Jake finally told Jenny that she was drunk and that it was time to go home. She swore at him and kept on doing what she was doing. Jake retaliated by calling her a bitch and drove home. One of her friends brought Jenny home the next morning. For the rest of the day she gave Jake the silent treatment. He tried to hold out, but after a few hours of misery, he apologized for calling her a bitch. Later that week, he somewhat reluctantly talked about the episode in his No More Mr. Nice Guy group. The group members lovingly confronted him. They pointed out how his willingness to tolerate his wife's intolerable behavior gave her a license to act in any way she pleased. They told Jake that the problem was not Jenny, it was him. Until Jake changed, his wife would have no incentive to change. By not setting boundaries, he was robbing his marriage of the opportunity to become what it could be. The next day, Jake confronted his wife. He acknowledged his role in their situation. He told her that he was no longer going to tolerate intolerable behavior. He told her his boundaries. He would no longer tolerate Jenny dancing or flirting with other men. He would not tolerate her demeaning him in front of their friends. He told her that if she wanted to stay married to him, she had to go to treatment for her drinking problem. Jenny responded by telling Jake that no one was going to tell her what to do. She packed a bag and moved out that night to a friend's house. Even though Jake was miserable the next few days, he resisted the temptation to call her and beg her to come back. Instead, he called some guys in the group. 3 nights later, Jenny called and said she wanted to talk. She came over and told Jake that even though she initially wanted to tell him to go to hell, she knew he was right. For the first time in their marriage, she said she felt respect for him. She said she wanted to save their marriage and was willing to do whatever it took to make it work. The following week, Jenny entered treatment. Breaking free activity number 23. Before you can start setting boundaries, you have to become aware of how much you back up from your line to avoid conflict or to keep the peace. For the next week, observe yourself. Do you say yes when you would rather say no? Do you agree to do something to avoid conflict? Do you avoid doing something because someone might get upset at you? Do you tolerate an intolerable situation, hoping that it will just go away? Write these observations down and share them with a safe person. Take a walk on the wild side. There is no key to a smooth life. Being good or doing it right doesn't insulate nice guys from the chaotic, ever-changing realities of life. All the nice guy paradigm does is create wimpy men who allow bullies to kick sand in their face or shame them for loading the dishwasher wrong. As recovering nice guys begin to surrender, dwell in reality, express their feelings, face their fears, develop integrity, and set boundaries, they access a power that allows them to welcome and embrace the challenges and gifts of life. Life isn't a merry-go-round, it's a roller coaster. As they reclaim personal power, recovering nice guys can experience the world in all of its serendipitous beauty. Life won't always be smooth, it may not always be pretty, but it will be an adventure, one not to be missed.